Hey, welcome back to All Things New with John Michael, today on YouTube and tomorrow on Spotify. And what I want to do, just as a way of an announcement, is give you a heads up of what to expect in the next several weeks and maybe even beyond. So, on the podcast, what we're going to do is we're going to continue through the series of just going through some old sermons and not just reteaching them, but possibly correcting them. As some of you have seen, my original sermon on the Old and the New Covenant had a very good framework, I think. It was very well researched, and quite frankly, it wasn't all my research. It was taken from Bible college, and so had a pretty strong foundation, I thought. But the conclusion was very mistaken, and so correcting that was kind of fun for me. And we're going to continue along those same lines. We're going to go through some sermons, and I just love to preach and teach, and so it's a good outlet for me, and I think there's some things in there worth saying, worth repeating, and so we're going to be going through those on the podcast. However, here on YouTube, I've got a couple of things that I want to talk about. This week and next, I'm going to do, for sure this week and next, and if maybe one more beyond that, but I want to talk about the difference between forgiveness and restoration. It's just so heavy on my heart. And so that's what to expect for the next couple of weeks here on the YouTube channel, on the videos. And beyond that, going into October, I remember as a kid in youth group, October, especially right around Halloween, we would do Hell Month and we would talk about hell. And sometimes it seemed to be very successful, and other times I'm just not sure. And so I want to talk about it though. And I think beyond that, and that might take several weeks, it might take one. We'll just see. We'll play that one a little bit by ear. I want to talk about apologetics in the months to come, and then of course December brings about all the Christmas messages, all the Christmas feels, and the message of Jesus. And so we'll go about that. And then starting the new year, I think I want to talk a little bit personally. I know I've used this verse before, I believe here on the YouTube channel, if not for sure on the podcast, that one of my favorite verses, a bit of a life verse for me, is that because of my great affection for you, I've not failed to share with you not only the gospel, but also my life, because you've become so dear to me. And so because I love you, I've shared the gospel and my life. I want to share the gospel with everyone, and maybe I'm not always successful at that, but I want to share the gospel. But beyond that, I want to share my life. I think it's so important. I think it's a vital part of discipleship. And so sharing the gospel and also my life. And so starting the new year, I think I'll be ready to share some very personal things, and as a way to hopefully bring healing and deliverance for others. But I just need to walk through a few things. And so I'm not trying to be secretive or mysterious. I'm just not ready to share it yet. So, but today, what I am ready to share, excuse me as I readjust, what I want to share is actually, I think, step one of if we are going to have forgiveness and restoration in relationships, maybe just a good place to start. And I don't mean it to be silly or so... just so, I think silly is the word I'm looking for. I don't mean it to be, but how do we give an apology? Right? Because I think so many times, whatever the situation is, very often the apology that we get is something like, hey, I'm so sorry I lied to you, but the reason I did that was this. And so the apology is, I'm sorry I did this, but... And now the entire apology is useless because we're already making an excuse for why we did what we did. And that's a terrible apology. Like, let's just call it what it is. Or, I'm sorry you feel that way. Well, you're not taking responsibility for anything. I'm sorry you feel this way. How about being sorry for what you did? And so I want to just go through a step-by-step of how to give a mature apology. I think I've mentioned here before, but I have index cards just taped up on the pantry door. And one of those index cards is how to give a mature apology. And so this is what we go through in our own home. And the acronym is REAP, R-E-A-P, REAP. And so step one of giving a mature apology is taking responsibility for your actions. Hey, I am sorry that I lied to you. I own up to it. It is something that I did. I can't take it back. It's done. It's been done, and I did it. And I take full responsibility for that lie. I said it, and there's no getting around that. That's the fact. E, show empathy for the other person's emotions. So then you go, okay, so I lied to you, and I bet you could have felt betrayed. You could have felt very hurt or angry, sad, confused. Why would I lie to you? Right? So are those any of those emotions that, can you confirm or deny that you felt those emotions? Yeah, I did. I did feel hurt. I felt so hurt that I did feel betrayed. I trusted you and you lied to me. Yeah, I can 100% see and understand how you felt that way. And again, I take full ownership of lying to you, and I am so sorry that I caused you to feel betrayed. That's what I did. So again, you're taking responsibility for your actions, but you're also showing empathy for the emotions. And we'll talk about the difference between empathy and sympathy. Yeah, maybe in the next week or two. But showing empathy for the feelings. A, make amends. So listen, I want to make it right. I can't take back my words. I can't take back that lie. But what I can do is promise that I'll never lie to you again. What I can do is I can promise that I will make this right. Let me take you out to dinner. Let me buy you. How can I begin to rebuild trust? Right? The illustration I heard years ago in a church service, and I have loved it so much, but when you betray someone's trust, what you've done is you've taken a jar of marbles and you've knocked the entire jar over, and the marbles have gone spilling everywhere. And so when you apologize, all you've really done is taken that jar and set it upright again. But now you've got a floor full of marbles that you have got to put in one by one, step by step, day by day, choice by choice. And so what can I do? What can I do to begin to rebuild the trust? I know I spilled these marbles, but what can I do to begin to put them back in the jar? And so you start to make amends. I am going to, in the little things. How about this? So that you can know that you can trust that I'm not lying to you, and that I'm a man of my word, and that I'll do what I say. I will wash the dishes every night for 2 weeks. Every night without, and if I don't do it, then you know you can't trust me. But if I do it, you'll know that I'm trying so hard to be a man of my word. I mean, whatever it is. These are just some random examples, but you take responsibility for your actions. You show empathy for their emotions. You make amends. And then P, you ask permission to offer your perspective. So you say, listen, if it's all right with you, I would like to explain why I lied to you. And whether you say yes or no, I like adding this at the end. I thank you for your yes, and I thank you for your no. So if you don't want to hear the reason, that's okay. That's up to you. And if they say, yeah, go ahead and go, listen, I was just scared. I was scared, and so I lied. Right? I was ashamed of what I did, and so I lied to you so that you wouldn't know what I actually did. Whatever the reason. Whatever the reason is. And if they say, you know what, I don't want to hear it, then you go, okay, that's fine. Because again, I take full responsibility for my actions. I own up to them. But if you give an apology in that order, and it has to be in that order, right? REAP, you take responsibility, you show empathy, you make amends, and then you ask permission to offer your perspective. And I believe if you give an apology this way, you will reap what you sow. If you give a mature apology, then very likely what will happen is the beginning of a mending of a broken fence, right? You'll begin to mend a broken relationship and a broken heart, and you'll begin to reap restoration. So next week, we're going to talk about some differences between forgiveness and restoration. So thank you so much. Love you. And I'll see you next week on All Things New with John Michael.